The summer of 1945 was heavy with silence, but it was the kind of silence that comes before a storm. World War II had raged for 6 long years. Hitler was gone. Europe was in ruins. Yet, across the Pacific, Japan still stood, battered, starving but unbroken. Cities had been firebombed, ports destroyed, and still the Japanese government refused to surrender. In Washington, D.C., leaders of the United States faced a choice. How could they end the war swiftly, without a bloody invasion that might cost hundreds of thousands of American lives, and perhaps millions of Japanese? On President Truman's desk lay a weapon so secret, even some of his generals hadn't believed it was possible. The Manhattan Project had birthed a new kind of destruction, the atomic bomb. The decision was cold, calculated, and cloaked in urgency. Truman authorized its use. The target, Hiroshima. A city of military importance, yet also home to over 300,000 civilians. At 2:45 a.m. on August 6, 1945, a silver B-29 bomber called the Enola Gay lifted from the island of Tinian. Inside, 12 men carried with them a single bomb nicknamed Little Boy. It wasn't just a weapon, it was an experiment, one no one fully understood. Even the scientists who built it feared it might ignite the atmosphere itself. Still, the mission went on. Hours passed as the bomber cut through the Pacific sky. In Hiroshima, it was an ordinary morning. Workers headed to factories, children walked to school, mothers prepared breakfast. The air was clear, the sun bright, so bright that few looked up when they first heard the faint rumble of engines above. At exactly 8:15 a.m., Colonel Paul Tibbets gave the order. The bomb bay doors opened. Little Boy fell. For 43 seconds, it dropped silently, twisting through the air like a forgotten piece of metal. People on the ground pointed. Some thought it was just another supply canister. Others stopped in their tracks, staring. Then, in a flash brighter than 1,000 suns, the world changed. The heart of Hiroshima ignited. A fireball burst outward at over 4,000 degrees Celsius. Buildings evaporated. Streets melted. Shadows of people were seared onto walls, black outlines frozen in an instant of life, turned into haunting silhouettes of death. Above the city, a mushroom cloud bloomed, climbing miles into the sky. Pilots aboard the Enola Gay gasped at what they saw. "My God," whispered one crewman. "What have we done?" On the ground, chaos was indescribable. Those near the blast vanished instantly, bodies turned to ash. Others farther away staggered through the streets, their clothes burned away, their skin hanging in strips. Fires raged uncontrollably, swallowing entire districts in minutes. In the river, survivors leapt to escape the flames, only to find the water boiling around them. Hiroshima had become a vision of hell on earth. Yet even in that devastation, stories of survival began to unfold. People crawled from the rubble, clutching loved ones, searching desperately for water, for safety, for answers. And far away, in Tokyo, leaders of Japan struggled to comprehend what had happened. Was it really just one bomb that had erased a city? The truth was only beginning to reveal itself. Smoke still rose from Hiroshima hours after the explosion, twisting into the sky like a dark scar. The once bustling city was now silent, broken only by cries of the wounded. In a single instant, over 70,000 lives had been erased. Tens of thousands more would suffer injuries so severe, they would not survive the days and weeks to come. Doctors who rushed to help were stunned. There was no precedent for what they saw. Patients arrived with burns so deep their skin peeled away at a touch. Many had no visible wounds at all, yet collapsed within hours, vomiting, bleeding, their hair falling out in clumps. The world would soon learn the word for it: radiation sickness. Amid the horror, there were moments of raw humanity. A mother shielded her child with her own body and lived just long enough to whisper goodbye. A schoolboy, covered in ash, wandered the streets searching for his classmates, calling names into the smoke. Priests opened church doors, turning sanctuaries into makeshift hospitals, though nothing could ease the suffering. Survivors, later called Hibakusha, would carry scars not only on their bodies but in their hearts for the rest of their lives. The Japanese government at first refused to believe what had happened. Reports spoke of one bomb destroying an entire city, but how could such a thing exist? Yet, as U.S. planes flew over Hiroshima in the following days, dropping leaflets warning of more to come, fear began to spread. And then, just 3 days later, on August 9, 1945, the sky over Nagasaki lit up with another atomic blast. If there was doubt before, it was gone now. Japan stood at the edge of annihilation. Inside the imperial palace in Tokyo, Emperor Hirohito faced the most difficult decision of his reign. His generals urged him to fight on, clinging to the warrior code of never surrendering. But the evidence was undeniable. Japan could not withstand this new weapon. On August 15th, the emperor's voice was broadcast to the nation, the first time his people had ever heard him. With solemn words, he announced Japan's surrender, bringing World War II to its end. But the cost was staggering. Hiroshima alone had been reduced to ashes. By the end of 1945, the death toll would rise to around 140,000. Many more would die slowly over the following years, from radiation, from cancers, from wounds that never healed. The bomb had ended one war, but it had also begun a new age, the nuclear age. The world stood at a crossroads. Scientists who had built the bomb were horrified by its use. Leaders debated, had this saved lives by preventing a bloody invasion, or had it crossed a line humanity should never have touched? The questions linger even today, echoing through history. Yet from the ruins of Hiroshima came resilience. Survivors rebuilt their city brick by brick. They told their stories so the world might never forget. Hiroshima became not only a place of tragedy but also a symbol of peace, a reminder of the fragile line between destruction and hope. And perhaps that's the true legacy of Hiroshima, not just the horror of the day the sky turned to fire, but the voices that rose from the ashes, pleading for a world where such a weapon would never be used again. Because history is not just about what happened. It's about what we choose to learn. So, as you reflect on the story of Hiroshima, ask yourself, what kind of future do we want to build? If you found this story powerful, make sure to subscribe for more history brought to life. Share this with someone who should never forget Hiroshima. And let's keep history alive, because remembering is the first step toward never repeating it.